Chapter 6. Squib would have liked to get on a dragon situation ASAFP. But there are things to do. Things like cleaning himself up until he was the squeaky clean epitome of innocence in 5'5" Cajun form. Things like destroying all evidence of his involvement in the dragon situation, which was an add-on to the first thing, really. And in this respect, Squib caught a break, as the whole Hook collapsing on the premises episode had more or less trashed the Stillhouse's main area. The constable had been all wheeling and sparring, distributing more mess than a group of finger-painting toddlers on a Skittles sugar high. His mama had ridden with Hook to the clinic, passing by just long enough for a cursory check on Squib. "God damn that constable," she whispered at Squib, who was probably in shock, which possibly approximated just woken up wooziness. "That man is a plague on the parish. I'm no sooner out of that damn place than I gotta go back in again. I'm still in my scrubs. You get some breakfast in the Pearl, okay, Cher?" Squib mumbled, "Okay, Mama," and put his head back down like, "Here I go off to sleep again like I've been doing all night." But no sooner had the paramedic stretchered Hook off the morose stoop that Squib was up and pacing. Could be that the dragon wasn't done with him for the day. It could be he'd come back and torture the whole place, and with him in it. Squib couldn't help but thinking that he's kind of sorta would deserve that. He'd been sticking his oar into other people's creeks for so long now that he was due some kind of payback. The universe, you know? A person keeps waggling his ass at a shark, then someday that shark's gonna bite. Especially if the shark's a dragon. But not Mama. Mama's good people. The best. All she does is look out for me. I'm the one waggling my ass. And Miss Ingham would call that a metaphor, he said to himself. Squib was almost overcome with an adolescent desire to text Charles Jr. over in Riverview Trailers, but he decided that the best thing was to keep the circle small. The less people who knew, the less people were going to get hurt. Should we tell the police? Oh, sure. Tell them that Constable Hook slit a smuggler's throat, and then his face got torn off by a flying turtle, shortly after which I was abducted by a gator overlord dragon. Even if he bypassed the constable's office and went direct to the sheriff in St. Tammany, who are they going to call? Ghostbusters? No, sir. Regent's goddamn Hook. That's who. No, Squib's son. Keep this nightmare to your own self. Hook doesn't know shit, and Vern can be figured out. Before nightfall, though. Squib knew that the scaly critter was going to drag his ass back up river to dust to finish what he started. But problem A, clean up the swamp mess, which might take his mind off problemo 2. Avoid being a dragon's dinner. Squib switched on the boiler, and while he waited on the hot tank, stripped off his own crusted duds and the bedclothes too, and balled up the whole lot into a trash bag, along with the woven chair cover Hook had messed up all over, and the rug the constable had a shit fin on. He tossed the sack down on the porch, then made a decent try at squabbing the morose shack down. After he patted the boiler to test for heat, then shouldered his own self to the bath stall. As he scrubbed the bilge from his crannies, he thought on the whole dragon predicament, pinching his flesh from time to time to remind himself that Vern was real and on the hunt. It would be all too easy in the light of day, and in something of a daze, to believe the monster nothing more than a nightmarish figment. But Squib was determined to figure a solution before sunset and brought a fiery reckoning. Waxman had once advised Squib to keep moving, for that's when the answers present itself, i.e. when the mind was active. Them idlers staring out windows is just staring out windows. They ain't solving shit, he said. Keep on keeping on, thought Squib. Get the cogs turning. So he shrugged himself into his second set of clothes, which was blue jeans and a cut-off black t-shirt, and throwing a sack of sawn articles over one shoulder, headed off to the Pearl Bar and Grill. Squib made a short hike to the Pearl in less than 10 minutes. The entire township of Petit Bateau boasted barely more than 500 residences, not counting the various shotgun shacks, trailers, and houseboats dotted around the limits like scattered seed. And fully 1/5 of those residents were boarded up. residences were boarded up. Currently, the mayor was lobbying for a name change, as it had long been a source of embarrassment for the townsfolk that the name Petit Bateau had risque connotations, i.e., Petit Bateau de Peches, that being old-timey slang for cooter. In truth, the town was less than a town and more of a village. And less a village, the more of a collection of services that sprung up around the landing on the West Pearl River, just off the interstate. Heck, it didn't even have its own ramp. Just a 2-mile-long service road leading right down to the cypress swamp to the riverside. Bodie Irwin was the town's lifeblood. A successful and benevolent mogul who somehow managed to run Petit Bateau's boatyard, bar, swamp tours, and shooting range. The campsite was presided over by his sister, Eleonora, and he employed most of the town, even attracting labor out from the city at the higher tourist season. Squib could have made the journey in 5 minutes, easy, as he usually walked double time, eager to make $1 one day or another. But today, post-dragon encounter, he took himself round back to the trio of Creole cottages that served as the town hall, constable's office, and car lot, just in case Hook had somehow crawled off his hospital bed and was spying through the slats of his office blinds, watching out for some kid with a bag of swamp laundry. Also, Squib wanted to make a silent entry via the Pearl's back door so he could load up the bar's industrial washing machine, and maybe grab himself a grilled cheese sandwich with hot sauce before Bodie noticed he was present and correct. He was 2 bites into said sandwich when Bodie appeared at the kitchen doorway, looking like a refugee from a Grateful Dead tribute act, long graying hair tied up in a Stars and Stripes bandana. "How you eat that shit, I don't know, son," said Bodie. "That hot sauce would tear the lining right out of your stomach, and the amount of cheese will back up your plumbing big time." "Thanks, Mr. Irwin," said Squib. "I appreciate the culinary advice." Bodie snorted. "Culinary my ass. We don't do culinary here, boy. We do whatever the tourists want. Gumbo, crawfish, po' boys, 4 different kinds of fries, and chicken wings in a push. Ain't no culinary on the menu." Squib crammed a triangle of grilled cheese into his mouth. "What do you say, Mr. Irwin? What you got on the list for me?" Thinking, "Don't send me out on the river. Not today." And it was like Bodie reached into his pocket in his mind and plucked out the thought. "Today," said the bar owner, "I gotta send you on the river. Waxman's vodka came in, and you gotta run a crate down to him." And what had been fresh bread in Squib's mouth suddenly tasted like swamp sludge. "Well, balls," he thought, but loud he said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Irwin. Give me 10 minutes to bring my boat round the yard." "Take 30, said Bodie. "First run a rinse cycle on my machine. Clean out all that shit you left in the drum." "That was Constable Hook who made the mess," said Squib. "He showed up this morning snake-bit. Mama rode with him to Slidell." "I heard," said Bodie. "Your mama done more than I would have. All we can pray for is that no account asshole don't make it till midnight." "Amen," said Squib with feeling. Vern swam directly from Petit Bateau, or specifically the Moreau Landing, to Waxman's houseboat on the east side of the West Pearl, maybe a mile diagonally across the river. The houseboat was of the shotgun variety and sat 10 feet wide, sat half on the river on cypress stumps. The houseboat must have looked something other than swamp-colored at some point in its history, but now it looked like it had been camouflaged by experts, when in fact it was simply assimilated. Vern had often commented that it looked like the goddamn board got a hold of this craft, to which Waxman always responded, "The goddamn who you say?" Waxman didn't appreciate modern media as much as Vern. He was more of a reader. I just lolls around, he'd say. "Toot some weed and see what the fucking demon lizard wants this time. Pain in the ass dragon be the bane of my existence." To which Vern usually responded with something along the lines of, "You just remember where I found you, Waxman. I am your liberator." Waxman generally chose not to stir from his deck hammock till late afternoon, preferring the hours of dusk and sky for business. But Vern considered this Squib situation a full-blown emergency and wanted to engage Waxman's expertise to the sweet. The swim across wasn't nothing special. Vern dodged a tour boat and sided through a fishing net, punching a cheeky gator just to burn off some of his irritation. But within minutes, he was shucking off river water at Waxman's deck. The houseboat had a fairground candy-striped awning out the back the Waxman kept to remind him of the bad times. The awning seemed impervious to even the swamping of the dwelling itself, awning with a reasonable luminescence, while simultaneously throwing the area beneath the deep shadow, which suited Vern on the rare occasion he found necessary to show up in person and not send a WhatsApp message. Waxman was surprisingly not laid up in his hammock, but sitting in his rocker on the slanted deck, an AK-47 laid across his bony knees. "Heard me some explosions," he explained. "Figured either a flare or a visit. Praise be, Lord Highfire come to parley with his subject." Waxman was a sight to behold. By all laws of nature, a fellow with that amount of wrinkles on his visage should be tumbling forth out of a sarcophagus or some such. But Waxman was alive and kicking. Mostly kicking back was how he liked it. But there was life in the old dog, and so forth. He wore a suit of Black Panther velvet and a black bowler hat with a rooster quill in the band. His face might have been any color at some point, but it came around to gray mostly, with black in the creases. Sky blue eyes and a white beard curled down into a scarlet cravat. Folks who got up close, who were few and far between, said that Waxman's skin looked scorched, like he'd been given the third degree as a little one, which was kind of funny considering the origins of his species. Which were as follows. Somewhere along the line when dragons were kings of the hill, one would occasionally crossbreed with a human. That didn't usually turn out so happily ever after for the prodigy. A baby dragon had teeth from the get-go, which didn't augur well for the human mother, and dragoness's tubes would crush a baby human on the way out. So most of these mutant children never saw the light of day. But life is tenacious, and every so often, one of these tough little bastards would pop out looking like he'd spent the night in a cauldron rather than a womb, all burned in appearance. Eventually, you got an Adam and an Eve, so to speak, and they took it from there on their own, propagating a new hybrid species, neither dragon nor human, and not accepted in either world. Waxman was one of these guys. A full-breed new breed, and tough as briar. He wasn't in Vern's league age-wise. He numbered in centuries, rather than millennia. The Chinese called what Waxman was a mogwai, a malevolent type fairy. But history was written by the victors, and humans had a habit of painting themselves as non-malevolent bad guys, in spite of the fact that everyone else was generally swinging from gibbets. And if Waxman was asked, he wouldn't consider himself unnecessarily malevolent. He was a survivor, was all, and a guy did what had to be done. Mogwai and dragons often buddied up to avoid death by whatever elaborate method the crusade mob favored at the time. Vern ran to Waxman in the early 1960s, when the Mogwai was doing some indentured servitude as a freak on a circus train. Vern heard about the amazing melting man and reckoned the circus had Mogwai on its hands, and it sure would be nice to have someone to talk to. So, a little rescue operation, he thought. Quick, in and out. No mess, no fuss. Turned out there was a Bucco mess and fuss. Vern miscalculated his approach and derailed half a dozen flat cars as it crossed the plump slough bridge, sending them plunging to the pearl. Some goddamn rescue, Waxman often noted. Broke my goddamn back! It had been, Vern would admit, a stopper-cocked of a situation, which had been quite the phrase back in the day. Waxman's back had been broken, but luckily, Waxman had amazing healing qualities. And I almost drowned, was the Mogwai's usual gripe. Which was true. Almost being the word, Vern always argued. I fished your sorry ass out of the river, didn't I? I can ship you back to the circus if you prefer. If running the occasional errand for me is too strenuous. and Waxman would chuckle and say, "Nah, you ain't the worst, Highfire. You was just the ugliest." The most useful thing about Waxman, from Vern's perspective, was that he could pass for human. Weird as all hell, but still human, which accounted for him living way downriver. And so long as he kept his jacket on, stayed swamp hidden, and paid his bills, then no one bothered him. Of course, every now and then, a couple of good old boys would try their luck, but Waxman had more pep in his step than one might assume, and he kept his weapons in good order. Like the AK-47 which lay across his lap right now. Vern noticed the Mogwai's finger was on the trigger, and he knew Waxman was pulling those shot beers of his to work, making sure Vern hadn't picked up a tail. "Glare, Vern," he said. "As far as I can tell, these days those shot by motherfuckers could be watching us from off-world." "Let's mosey inside," said Vern, shaking his wings. "I can't relax now with the sun on my back." "Ain't that a sorry statement?" said Waxman, and walked forward in his chair, using the momentum to scooch himself upright. "Too early, you think?" "Ain't never too early," said Vern, and followed his associate into the houseboat. Waxman's original name was lost to the twists of time. In the day's singe, he had been known as Winkle, Blackhoof, Sanderson, Rochford, Roach, and finally Waxman. The Mogwai had never felt the need for a first name or qualifier. "Ain't but one Waxman," he always said, to which Vern usually replied, "You could sing that, brother." Waxman used to have family way back when, and maybe he still did. Wasn't no hives left, just spread out and fit in was the plan. Latch onto a dragon if you could. But there weren't so many of those anymore neither, and Waxman had gone to early hibernation when Vern dropped out of the sky. "Shit! You lord that's descending from the heavens was one of the sweetest sights I ever seen. Even if you did shab my goddamn back." Vern let the hard-ass comment go, and that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship, half a century in counting. And the name Waxman worked for the Mogwai. It suited his face. Makes me seem a character," he said. "Crazy Waxman would be better, or maybe Scary Waxman to keep the kids away. But Waxman will do just fine. I'm like Boo fucking Radley on crack to these backwards ass folk." Truth was, Waxman was scary, or could be, when the occasion called for it, and sometimes if he was feeling irritable when it didn't. Most of the time, he was just a swamp character, living out in his houseboat, cut off from civilization. Plenty of old guys went off the grid, kept to himself mostly, something up with his face. But who gave a good goddamn about that so long as he paid his bills? But it had happened, down the years, that some boat people would exercise their human nature and try taking over Waxman's little patch. Then the Mogwai would take out his bag. That creepy-ass bag of sharp things and small corked bottles. Wasn't no human saw that bag live to tell a tale, and Vern often thought they never wanted anything coming out of that bag with his name on it, because he knew there was something in that purple silk interior that was brewed specially for him. Vern tucked his wings and ducked through the doorway. The inside of the houseboat was a lot more salubrious than the outside. Waxman liked his comforts, even if he didn't draw attention to the fact. The only people who knew how Waxman lived were Vern and Bodie, who ordered his antiques and often dropped them off at the tour cruiser, if they were too bulky for the boy who ran to him. Wall-to-wall rugs, North African mostly, were overlapping each other's borders, a forest floor of colors and textures. The walls were pumped full of foam insulation, and there was a nice, quiet Honda generator pumping the running electronics with the solar panels on the roof when the roof ran out of juice, where Vern had his TV cable and a street-top combo dish for entertainment. Waxman had 3 books, three walls of books, which saw one shelf off the deck in case of damp or storm, a tactic learned the hard way, the most bitter lesson being a water-damaged first edition of Ulysses, the Irish version. Vern scoffed. "Irish Ulysses? I wouldn't pay $10 for that shit." You been had, Wax. Ulysses was a Greek son of a bitch. Which almost put an end to the symbiosis. But Waxman endured. "You know Highfire? How can a dragon be so old and so ignorant? which led to huffing on both sides. But they got over it. No choice, really. What the hell else were they gonna do? Because of the Ulysses incident, there was not one but two dehumidifiers running at all times, and a slab of air conditioning machinery crouched in one corner. Waxman's bed was an ebony four-poster, which had taken some lugging. It had a rainfall shower plumbed in, which Vern envied even as he scoffed at it. "You gotta watch all this shit while I'm down," said Waxman. "Specifically the books. Something happens to my Faulkners, and that's the final nail in that coffin, as far as this here is concerned." Vern settled into a velvet armchair with the ass conveniently sawed off out through it to accommodate his tail. "You ain't going down anytime soon, though, right?" Waxman took a bottle of fine Irish whiskey down from the dresser. "Could be soon. I feel this thing in my heart." Vern accepted the tumbler of whiskey. "Hide? The hell you say? You got a new AG on me? You got a new AG on me, Wax?" "Nah," said Waxman, sniffing the drink. "My skin gets itchy. Look at me, Highfire. I'm greater than a badger's asshole. This skin has gotta come off. I can show you if you have a hankering for specifics." Vern finished the drink in a swallow. I'll take it past here, there, Wax. It's bad enough I gotta see your face." "Feelings mutual," said Waxman. "Thing is, my entire skin is above regular on the itch scale, which means I gotta go down for the dirt nap soon." "Shit, Wax," said Vern. "When?" "As soon as," said Waxman. Once we sort out whatever needs to be sorted. Whatever brings you here in the first place." Vern was not pleased with this news. "Come on, Wax. Ain't you got some way to bypass that process? The Mogwai laughed. "Yeah, Highfire. I just calls up Mother Nature and asked her to speed up evolution. You sure is dumb shit for an ancient motherfucker." Vern tossed up his second drink and scowled. "If we gotta drink whiskey, you know I favor scotch." "Sorry," said the Mogwai, betraying his line with a grin. "All I got is Irish. Irish, like Ulysses." Vern crossed his legs and stared through the golden film at the bottom of his glass, down to the marble-tinged shades of the rug under his feet. He twisted his cut-glass tumbler, a makeshift kaleidoscope. "I need the bag, Wax." Waxman sighed, deep down in his boots. "Come on, Highfire. I ain't needed the bag in years. A guy gets older, you know. You need someone killed? Do your own self. You never had no problem before." "This is different. I need this fella done quiet. It's a human, if that helps your conscience." "It does, but not much. Tell the truth, I'm about done with hating the world. It's hard to maintain." "I know it," said Vern. "Even Ice Cube smiles now and again. But I got to see him, Wax, up close. Flying, conversing, the whole works. And this human, you let him escape?" "Goddamn gator," said Vern. "Came stomping in with a challenge. I got distracted, and the human, the boy, shoots out the window. Plucky little fucker, I'll give him that." Waxman said, Plucky little fucker, says you? You got a name to go with that description? You got a name to go with that description?" "I do indeedy. A stupid-ass name," said Vern. The dragon didn't need to say it. "My nerves are twitching up a storm," said Waxman. "Squib Moreau, am I right?" Now Vern said, "Right you are, Wax. Those nerves of yours is pretty good specific with names." "Nah," said Waxman. "I am familiar with Squib, that's all." "You're familiar with him? Well, that ain't gonna be a deal breaker, Wax. You know the arrangement we've got." Waxman finger-combed his beard. "I know it, Vern. Us against them, right?" "Goddamn right. Like it's always been. The angry mob ain't nothing but one jabbering kid away from our doors." "Thing is, Highfire," said Waxman silly, "this kid Squib, he don't exactly jabber." Vern snorted. "He jabbered plain when I showed him the dragon flame, tried to make himself all familiar. Showed me his fingers and shit." Waxman smiled, and a person looking closely might spot there seemed to be a second row of teeth looking from behind the front set. Yeah, Squib's an operator, sure enough. Vernon was a little surprised by Waxman's attitude. You going soft on me? He asked. You loving humans now? I ain't loving nobody, said Waxman. Not even your scaly ass. But Squib, he's a one, you know? Credit where it's due. What in blue blazes are you talking about, Wax? Credit where it's due. Have you gone switch sides on me? Calm down, Highfire, said Waxman. Then he actually shushed the dragon. Vernon was not one for being shushed. Calm down? You forget that cage I found you in? Look at you, Wax. You're positively purring over that kid. Well, looky here, said Waxman, clapping his hands. Highfire is all shook up. What the hell happened downriver? Shit, said Vern. Shit happened. Explosions, boats sinking, the whole ball of wax. Either gotta tie this off or move on, Wax. It's not like I like it here overly, but I don't like it nowhere else either. And this boy, Squib, that's the only way? How I see it. Less'n you got something else up that sleeve. Waxman sighed. I hates to do it, Highfire. That boy does for me like I do for you. If you get my drift. Keeps me in the supply chain. Good kid, too. Resourceful. He ain't the squealing type. Sure, huffed Fern. Ain't nobody the squealing type until they get a load of me. Little asshole is probably already done squealed. Only chance we got is that he was messing with Constable Hook downriver. So it could be he won't run into the law. How about I do Hook? Said Waxman brightly. I will surely hop to that task. I got just the ball for that prick. Fern shook his head. Hook didn't see nothing apart from his own ass catching fire. I reckon he'll steer clear. Oh, you don't know Hook. That man's trouble. I can smell an eye for him a mile away. As long as he stays a mile away. Waxman reached up with both hands and set 8 fingers on the brim of his felt bowler hat, moving delicately and laying it on his lap like a house cat. You was selling that kid then, Highfire? I can't see it another way. I done marked the script for you. There's his mail right on the deck. Get it done, is my advice, before he gets to whispering with his buddies at the pud-tugging time. Waxman stroked the hat, which was a downright creepy habit. No need for the mark of the dragon, Highfire. The kid should be here in half an hour or so. Vern found himself both delighted and anxious. He's coming here? That is downright considerate. I should shake your leg and let you be about your business. Waxman cackled. No, sir, Highfire! It is true that Waxman goes where you cannot go, but since you was already present and correct, I'm thinking you could sit down a spell and do your own dirty work. Come on, Wax! I need to get gone! You the man when it comes to vanishing humans. Waxman mulled this over. I've been thinking about that. Humans, dragons, mogwai. Ain't no bad species nor good species. Ain't you always telling me how your brother was an asshole? He was an asshole, said Vern with vehemence, flashing on his brother, jubilous, looming over him and mashing pig guts in his face. 3,000 years and still you can't let that go, said Waxman. But my point is that we is all souls, and there is good souls and bad souls. The boy Squib is somewhere in the middle, but I believe he's leaning towards good. So if you want to vanish him against my counsel, then you gotta do the deed your own self. Vern squinted, considering this. The Mogwai didn't offer this level of counsel lightly. Usually shooting the breeze was all about as profound as a god Shay Waxman. Vern had learned to spend a little time mulling over anything that resembled the philosophical coming out of his friend's mouth. But on this occasion, there was no time for mulling, and no room for soul theories. The boy had got to get got, was the boiled-down bones of the truth. Vern thought that maybe he could pull rank, but really, the Mogwai dragon thing was pretty much in an equal partners class of the arrangement, and he couldn't blame Waxman for being leery of the job. It wasn't in his nature anymore. Sure, the Mogwai had his bag of tricks, but didn't relish opening again unless completely necessary, and he drew the line at kids in any species. It could be argued that this Moreau boy wasn't exactly a kid, but wasn't exactly a grown-up either. You waiting for budging on this, I guess? Said Fern. Reckon I ain't, confirmed the waxman, threading the feather on his hatband through his fingers like he was stroking a tiny bird. Well then, I'll do the kid, said Vern, and leave you to stroking your hat. Which was creepy as hell, by the way. I'd rather be a hat stroker than a kid killer, said Waxman, which did have a ring of logic to it. Squib was as jumpy as a cat in a doghouse when he traversed the river. The current tugged at the whole of his pirogue, but the boat rolled through the catspaws like a leaf and cut across the floor in a series of tiny hops. On another day, Squib might have relished the sunlight on his face and the prospect of passing an hour with old Waxman, who was never averse to beer and cigarettes in the afternoon under that circus awning of his. But today, he was hot and bothered by the knowledge that dragons could swim, and he was currently on the water. Dragons can swim? He thought. Surely to Christ that ain't fair, swimming and flying both. What kind of a chance does a fella have against abilities like that? The Pearl River was bustling now, nothing compared to the port of New Orleans, but by San Tammany standards, they were bang in the middle of rush hour, with two cruisers headed for the afternoon shift, loaded to the gunwales with folks itching for a glimpse of the legendary Honey Island monster. I could tell them, thought Squib, the monster is real as all hell, but he don't reside on Honey Island. These boats could be a salvation, Squib realized. Vern had stayed alive by keeping himself to himself, so it could be the dragon would not relish breaching the surface with so many itchy shoulder fingers on the river. So he plotted himself a zigzag course across river, bumping up close to the tour cruisers. Just a traditional type Cajun boy, willing to flash his poor ass optimistic smile for the tourists. It took a while longer to make the journey, but Squib reckoned he wasn't in no particular hurry, and the cruisers kept him safe on Dragon Strike. Dragon Strike. Imagine, that's a real thing. If Charles Jr. knew, he would crap his pants. This wasn't a word of exaggeration. Charles Jr. had crapped his pants once before in 7th grade, when some asshole in a clown mask had snuck up on him. His friend would have had a pants crapping reputation still, if Waxman had advised him through Squib to climb up on the cafeteria table and drop his jeans, confirming the monster Dick rumors. And as Waxman had predicted, Dick trumps drawers any day of the week. It took a while, but eventually Squib got his eyes on Waxman's houseboat, rising up out of the river like a part of the cypress forest, all camouflaged apart from a flash of the awning round back. Squib came up on Waxman one time when the old man was down past the label on a bottle of Jameson and learned a couple of things. One, the swamp dweller didn't care much for vodka, and two, he disliked circus folk, even more than clear spirits. Old Waxman never drilled down into either comment much, but he had left Squib wondering why the hell he was living in crates of Absolute to the houseboat on a fortnight. For an old boy who don't like vodka, he sure drugs through an amount of it. As Squib tied off on Waxman's pole, it occurred to him that maybe there was a guy who offered some advice re his dragon situation. It was said in town that Waxman was near to 100 years old, but surely to Christ a man can live on the water that long and not catch a sniff of a dragon down river. Could be that old Waxman might have shaken two up with that velvet sleeve of his. Squib headed the crate of Absolute from his boat and swung it onto the deck, where it landed with a jangle of clinkings. Waxman! He called, announcing his presence loud and clear. It didn't do to sneak up on anyone in the bayou. The human-to-gun ratio in the swamp was about 5 times the national average, and shots fired to gun zoned ratio was even higher. It's your boy, Squib Moreau. I got you a crate of Russian lightning. Lug on in, boy! Came Waxman's voice from inside the houseboat. It wasn't out of the ordinary type of voice. Maybe the acid that had done for his face had soaked through his vocal cords. Waxman sounded like one of those old-time blues singers who spent 60 years in the smoky joints and came out the other end with a growl like a junkyard dog. Squib liked that sound. He liked sitting around listening to Waxman talk about long ago, shit that went down when castles had murder holes and battle was waged, with honest-to-God axes. Horror stories, but cool to listen to. I'm coming, Waxman, said Squib, and rather than humping the blue plastic crate, he just dragged it across the planks, smooth as they were with great age. Generally, Squib would have said Mr. Waxman or Sir, schooled in manners as he was by his mama, but Waxman didn't hold no truck with formalities. Just Waxman, boy. Listen, you want to call me Handsome Waxman. Then I know you'd be lying. So plain old Waxman it was. Squib pulled across the screen and nudged to the crate to the doorway with the toe of his Converse. He He sighed hugely, as though he had completed the labors of Hercules. There she is, Waxman. One crave absolute, free from additives and corn nuts. Hell, it's practically a health drink. Waxman was up in his upright armchair, which, according to Bodie, he had shipped from England, where it might have one time been warmed by the Queen's royal behind. Squib picked up the crate and carried it into the center of the room, lifting his feet over the overlapping edges of the rugs. He plonked it down on a small round table that didn't look balanced right, the stern being off to one side. It didn't seem like it could bear the weight, but it always did. You should come down to the bar one Saturday, said Squib. Could be you'd like it. Waxman stuck out his lower lip and shook his head. I ain't a fan of mankind, son, with certain exceptions. Me being one of those exceptions, I'm hoping, said Squib. You being one, Bodie another. I like you fine, but I ain't about to go all buck social. No offense. Now take it. I'm happy to be liked. Waxman shifted in his chair. Sometimes being liked ain't enough, Squib. It's enough when you don't experience it none too far. So far in my life, I've got 3 likes and 1 love. That sure seems enough for me. More than I got, admitted Waxman. So, with that in mind, said Squib, blowing himself into the weird assless chair, slowly, in case Waxman wasn't in the mood for chit-chat. Maybe you could advise me on a problem I got. Waxman frowned. He was obviously on the point of not wanting to do shit with Squib's problem when he threw a quick glance over his shoulder into the shadows and seemed to change his mind. Well, maybe I could, son. Maybe I could do that. Waxman has seen it all. And what he ain't seen, he can hazard a guess at. So why don't you open on up? Squib was hesitant now, and he had to leave to spit it out. It's a strange one, Waxman. Worse than Charles Jr. and the soiled britches? Yeah, I gotta say. Way worse. I need to soil my britches my own self. Shit, boy! Now I'm intrigued. Lay on out, and don't spare the color. Squib took several quick breaths like he was preparing to dive into icy waters, and then blurted out the whole thing. Hook, Carnahan, the face-eating turtle, and of course, Vern the dragon. Waxman sagged when the telling was over. Shit, son! You sketched that real nice. Well, nice and calm, barely a stutter. You've had quite the night, ain't you? Squib nodded, allowing that he surely had. And your tribulations ain't over yet? That was a statement, not a question. If this dragon don't get you, then Hook probably will? Squib hadn't even gone around to fraying on Hook. I guess, maybe. But Hook ain't getting no one from my hospital bed. It's this Vern fellow I'm concerned about. Waxman twisted his beard. Seems sensible. Squib realized that he hadn't been neither ejected nor mocked. Are you saying that you believe me, Waxman? Waxman smiled crookedly. I ain't sure about the face-eating turtle. Seems far-fetched to me. But the dragon? Oh, him? Hell yeah. That old cool's been around for years. The Honey Island monster. Except he don't live on no Honey Island. And he ain't your typical monster. Right, said Squib, feeling a little lighter simply from being credited for telling the truth. He's a dragon. I know it, continued Waxman. That motherfucker is older than the river itself. This was all well and good, confirmation-wise, but Squib needed a solution. So what do I do, Waxman? I ain't got no options other than to leave the country. You told anybody? Squib rolled his eyes. Told anybody? Who am I gonna tell? The cops? I'd surely lay my own ass in a sail. Then I'm gonna send up for Hook. Mama? She frets enough already. Thinks I'm scarred by not having no daddy. Also, if she knew the truth, then Vern might do in the entire family. Hit. How about Charles Jr., the dick man? Well, Charles ain't exactly got his feet in the ground. Last week, he swore to me that he was spending his nights in New Orleans man-whoring himself. I ain't trusting him with no serious sensitive information. You're the first and only man to hear this story. That's good, said Waxman. Maybe we can bargain on that. Bargain? I don't figure this dragon is for turning. Waxman chewed on that and spoke a bit louder than seemed necessary. You know, kid, I didn't hear that dragons were ordinary cusses, but ugly, too. Squib had been far too awestruck by Vern to accept this. I thought this Vern fella was kind of noble-looking. Big as all hell, too, like a basketball player. You should have seen the way he schooled those gators. Shit, I wouldn't have thought it possible. Just a pity Mr. Noble wants to burn you, huh? Yeah, said Squib, dejected. If it weren't for that, and I ain't even gonna tell anybody. Here's what I hear, said Waxman, connecting the air. Dragons like their entertainment, cable and such. Got their tastes too. Booze, Pringles, all very particular. Now, a ugly dragon can't exactly waltz himself into town with a fistful of dollars in his scaly claws, so I'm guessing he needs himself a go-between, like how you go-between for me. Squib jumped right in on the notion, eager as he was for a solution. Yeah, like Renfield with Dracula. Vern needs himself a Renfield. I could Renfield the shit out of the bayou for him. Shit, I run deliveries for Bodhi. Can't be much different. Whatever a dragon needs. Waxman grinned wide, and for a second, Squib thought something shifted behind his teeth. Something more like more teeth. You said Renfield a bunch of times, kid. The way I remember reading it, Renfield was a pathetic old boy. I reckon Vern's go-between is more of a partner in crime than a bug-eating half-wit. Yeah, said Squib. Go in there like an equal, like I got value. Like you got an offer he can't refuse, said Waxman, though Vern can be pig-headed. At the second mention of the dragon's name, something slid into place inside Squib's brain. He found himself staring at the bottles of vodka seated on the table and losing himself a little in the fuzzy colors reflected therein, while he waited for whatever his subconscious already figured out to bob to the surface. It was vodka-related. He felt sure. This fraction of the realization was solid as the glass of an absolute bottle, but the rest of it was a dark cloud of smoke and terror. Vodka-related. Vern can be pig-headed. Squib felt the blood drain from his face as he consciously joined the dots. Waxman knew the dragon's personality. Waxman was personally acquainted with the dragon. Waxman is the go-between. Waxman is Renfield. And, I've done walked right into the dragon's den, more or less. Squib was so tired all of a sudden he couldn't so much as lift his head to face his doom. Yep, said Waxman. There it is. I guess you remember the way you seen the vodka recently. I guess you figured out how I know Vern is pig-headed. I guess, said Squib. You was Renfield. Waxman made it different. I don't see that. We's like partners. We do for each other. Squib was sinking into shock. His hands dangled loose on the wrists, and all he could do was watch them. For each other, he said dully. Right. Right, said Waxman. That's right, ain't it, Vern? Squib had the bathroom door open, and someone stepped into the room. 3 guesses who that is, thought Squib, and closed his eyes. Vern strode out of the bathroom angry. Why are you talking all that shit? He asked. Waxman played it instant. What shit? I was just jawing with the kid. Get him relaxed. Vern wasn't buying this. Wax. You're stirring. Stirring and planting notions is what you're doing. Angry as he was, the dragon kept his eyes on Squib. The kid seemed to be in a bit of a daze, but he pulled him that dodge him before and skipped out when the chance presented itself. Fool me once, thought Vern. What notions am I planning? Vern pointed a taloned finger at him. What notions is it, Wax? What notions? How about the notion that Squib takes over your position while you're taking the dirt nap? How about that notion? Waxman grinned right. His rows of teeth very visible. Say, Highfire, that ain't a bad idea. You couple down on your own? Screw you, said Vern, then clamped Squib's head with one massive hand, easing a globetrotter gripping a Spaulding. Just let me sort this out, man. Vern felt the kid tense in his grip and then slump as the fight went out of him. Goddamn Waxman, he thought, irritated. Stirring and planting. He tilted Squib's head back and gave him the double barrels of his sulphur-laden nostrils straight in the face. Sleep, kid, he thought, while I sort this mess out. Neat trick, said Waxman, as Squib sank immediately to the gas slumber. Yeah, said Vern. Humans can't take the dragon breath. Knocks them out for 6. Apparently they wake up a little dumber, but it's hard to tell. Vern tumbled Squib out of the chair and slid his tail through the hole carved in the foam. Okay, Wax, he said, sacking a ball of Absolute from the crate. Make okay, Spuddy. Though I'm warning you, this'll be a tough sell. Waxman composed himself, placing his hat on the low table beside Chin's shaded lamp. Tired of that lamp, he commented while he got his ducks in a row. Vern took a slug of vodka straight from the bottle, which he knew he would irritate the house proud Mogwai. Good start, he said. Damned if I ain't coming around already. Okay, cut the bullshit, Highfire, said Waxman, getting his feet. Here's the way I see it. We's both in the unfortunate position of needing a go-between. I got Squib, and you got me. With you so far, said Vern. The problem being, I gotta go down soon, which leaves you up the creek. Or down the creek, to be more accurate. You absolutely gotta go under? You couldn't skip a cycle? Sure I can skip a cycle, and I'll be in a wheelchair by the spring. This old body's gotta be nourished, Highfire, and soon. I've been putting it off for your sake, and these bones is tired. How soon is soon, exactly? Yesterday, said Waxman. And for 3 years, maybe? Vern gaped. 3 goddamn years? You ain't just saying that? No, I ain't saying that, snapped Waxman. I got hair falling down clumps and skin dropping on my ass. You want to see? Vern sighed. It's been a long day, Wax. No offense to your ass, but I don't want to see. So, we take the kid on, said Waxman. He sees to me while I'm down and takes up my duties as far as you're concerned. Just like that? Yeah! A human familiar? I ain't no familiar, Highfire. We don't have that talk. Yeah, but a human ain't exactly at your pay grade. Waxman weighed this. Okay, a human familiar. We've had human familiars before, at the Erie. Remember how that ended up? Vern let that hang over the negotiations. This was crunch point as far as he was concerned. In 1,000 years, it never worked out with a human. Let Waxman argue that away. Waxman stippled his fingers, and Vern sensed the speech coming. Vern, Lord Highfire as was, the older I gets, the more I realize we is all just souls. All souls in different bodies. Human bodies, dragon bodies, mogwai bodies, vessels as such. Some souls are assholes, and some ain't. Maybe it seems like there is an inordinate amount of human assholes, but that's just percentages. And I do believe this specimen of a boy is a good soul. He ain't never tried nothing too shady. He looks after his mama, and he will shovel shit all the livelong day if it's required, which it surely will be. He likes a good story, too, and you do like to deliver a story with flair. Vern nodded, allowing that he did enjoy spinning a yarn, but it wasn't an absent kind of nod, as he was chewing on Waxman's second delivery of his soul's theory in one day. It could be that his friend had mellowed more than Vern had realized. Maybe the signs had been there, and he never caught on. To buy himself a breather, Vern asked, Go back 1 point. You seriously need all that shit to come out of the hole smiling? If you want me to perky as all hell, yes sir, I surely do. What? Balls, said Vern. I ain't no spring chicken either, you know. The pipes get clogged. Eat some fiber, said Waxman. I know you was all about the protein nowadays, but that stuff will bunk up a body if you ain't hydrated. Can we swing back to the other shit? The big pie you were trying to sell me? Waxman got back on track. So ultimately, what we is doing here is removing a link from the chain, making the chain stronger. Unless the link is a lying piece of human trash who runs into newspapers with dragon stories. So we take steps to ensure that don't happen, said Waxman. What steps, asked Vern. We tell him the sad truth, said the Mogwai. Which sad truth is that, Waxman? Waxman's black eyes glittered like water-polished stones. The sad truth? That he's already dying. Squib was awake a while before he opened his eyes, which was a habit rather than master planning. He overheard a few snippets of Vern and Waxman arguing over his fate. At first, he thought the TV was on somewhere, and he was listening to a gangster show with a supernatural element. But pretty soon, his limbic system whispered into his motor system that he better get the hell out of there, because there was a dragon having it out with some other kind of immortal being about whether or not to kill him or have him shovel shit for all eternity, which he presumed was a metaphor for something. "Look at the kid," said the dragon. "He ain't nothing but skin and bone. You telling me this specimen can even hump that volume of shit?" "Sure he can," argued Waxman. "I seen him move a stack of crates higher than his own self." Squib thought he'd better get his speaking. "I can work," he blurted. "Shovel shit for real, or whatever that might mean. Deliveries? Collections? Hell, I can do foot massage if you need it, Mr. Fern, sir." The boy opened his eyes to find two very different expressions trained on him. Waxman was grinning as though he was having some competition or another, and Vern was scowling like the fool on his plate was irritating him. "Mr. Vern, sir," repeated Waxman. "That's more courtesy than you're accustomed to, Highfire." "Sure is," said the dragon. "But I ain't interested in courtesy. Humans always start out courteous. Then, before a fellow can even retract his balls, it's all torches and spears." Squib was a mite confused over the retraction of ball section in that statement, but he reckoned he could let that go for the moment, though it pained him not to ask a question that was begging to be asked. No torches and spears for me, sir," he assured the dragon. "I'm a hustler is what I am, from the day I was born. If you got a paid job for me, then that's the job I'm doing." Waxman smiled sadly. Squib had seen that class of a smile before in the clinic when he was waiting for his mama's shift to end. Mama called that class of smile the BLT, for bad luck teeth. Usually doctors pasted on that smile when they were about to hang a right into the terminal ward. "It ain't a job exactly, or a paid one, that I should say," said the Mogwai. "Shit," said Squib. "Am I dying?" "We's all dying, boy," said Waxman. "Even Lord Highfire here. But you is definitely further along that road." "Come on, Waxman," objected Squib. "Don't be fooling around. I've been a good runner for you all these years." This was true, and so Waxman reluctantly relented. He had been hoping to spin out the telling a bit more. "Okay, son," he said. "Vern gave you the dragon breath, a full dose, and that is fatal to humans, I kid thee not." Squib could not believe it. "You killed me for delivering vodka? I can't believe it. My poor mama." At the mention of Squib's mama, Waxman interjected with a "but." "But the effects can be written out if a fella has access to the antidote." "Yeah," said Squib miserably. "And I bet the antidote is going down a goat's ass on the top of Mount Everest, and I gotta go there directly." "Not exactly," said Waxman, opening one hand to reveal a small shining amber disc. "This here is one of Vern's scales. He molds them all over the place. You need a fresh scale, drop of scale maybe twice a week for a few months." Squib took the disc. "And what? I just lay it on my forehead or something?" "Oh, hell no," said Waxman, straight-faced. "That right there is what we call a pestiary, which means you gotta stick it where the sun most definitely do not shine." "Come on, Wax," said Vern. "Don't toy with the kid." "You chew on it," said Waxman, like tobacco, until the color is gone. That should get it done." If I don't chew on it?" "Cramps initially," said Waxman. "And then a burning in your hands," said Vern. "Nausea," added Waxman. But you won't mind that none, occupied as you'll be with the burning." "Then you vomit out your lungs." Waxman disagreed. "The last guy shit out his lungs." "No, he shit out his windpipe. Colon, you know. Lungs were up top." "You is the expert," could see Waxman. "Either way, everything comes out." "And then your heart explodes," said Vern. Squib stuffed the scale in his mouth and sucked it like a baby sucking a pacifier. It tasted bitter, but a fellow could endure it, considering the alternative. "You get the implications?" asked Waxman, while Squib worked on the scale. "You mess with Vern, and you don't get the scale. You bring the mob, and you don't get your scale. It's a little insurance for Lord Highfire." Squib nodded. He got it, In his entire life, he'd never been so completely gotten something. So, you take up my duties while we're in charge, and in 3 months, I'm back, and you're clear. Vern's brow ridged sharp. 3 months, Wax? You total dick! 3 years, you told me. I could have lasted 3 months without cable. Shit! I could brew my own hooch if I have to. Did I say years? Said Waxman, all innocent. I meant months, Highfire. My sincere apologies. You played me, Wax. It's like you don't even want me to kill this kid. He's a soul, Vern, said Waxman, earnestly restating his philosophy. We is all souls. You gotta get with that. They're gonna carve that soul's lecture on your tombstone, said Vern, actually kicking the leg of Waxman's bed. And I don't gotta do nothing, 'cause I'm the last dragon. So you say, said Waxman. But it's a big world, and you ain't took a squint around for a long time. Taking a squint around, as you puts it, Wax, is liable to get a fella killed. Dragons learned that the hard way. Squib watched him go at it and realized he could have easily made a dart for the door. But I got dragon breath in my lungs, so there's no way to run. He figured he'd heard about dragon breath somewhere, read in the book maybe. Admittedly, it sounded like horse shit, but only if a guy didn't believe in dragons. When there was a dragon standing in front of a person, it seemed to Squib like that person had no option but to believe in anything and everything. Okay, he said. I accept the job offer, like I even got a choice. What time I got to be here? Waxman broke off his arguing with Vern. What time? I'd say nightfall. That okay with you, Highfire? Vern ran some numbers in his head. At the earliest, Wax. I gotta go into production, if you know what I'm saying. I hear you, brother. Let's say we party down some. Have ourselves a send-off. Then you can leave the first deposit on site for the shoveler here. Squib was starting to get the picture. Shit, he thought, then said aloud, Shit.